Welcome to Architects for Change, the podcast that bridges the gap between architecture, the built environment and politics. I'm Jay Morton, your host. I'm an architect and political geek, and together we'll hear from the change makers and thought leaders who are shaping the future of our cities and spaces. Our conversations will tackle pressing questions that hold the key to our future. How can we achieve a net zero future? What does it truly take to design a better world? And most importantly, how can politics play a pivotal role in breaking down the barriers that hinder progress? So, welcome to Architects for Change. Today it's a real pleasure to be joined by Amy Lamé, who I've actually known for quite a long time. But Amy is a DJ, a BBC Six Music presenter who has got a fabulous show that you should tune into on Saturday mornings.
Saturday and Sunday mornings.
We definitely catch that with my little boy, and you do play some great tunes. And also is an LGBTQ plus activist and was really instrumental in saving the Vauxhall Tavern pub, which actually then led to Amy being given the role as the London's first Night Czar. So you've been playing that key role in defining the nighttime economy, looking at planning policy and how do we actually keep London active at night. So it's a real honour to have you.
Well, it's great to be able to chat with you, Jay. Honestly, it takes us back to back to old times, just having a chat and, over a cup of coffee. So it's nice to be able to do it again in this context.
So we actually met through the Fabian Women's Network, who I also met, where I actually met Tamara, who was an interview in a few episodes.
Oh, did you have her on? Oh, yeah. Fab. Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
So, definitely Fabian Women's Network is the place to meet amazing women doing amazing things.
Yep. We are a real sisterhood.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's maybe delve right in. I guess the first thing is how we actually define the nighttime economy. Like a lot of people will think that it's just bars and clubs and that element of nightlife. But how do you define the nighttime economy, and why is it important to a city like London?
Yeah, well, that's such an interesting question to start off with, because I would say that the term nighttime economy is kind of like firmly in the past, and that it's still widely used, but people typically use it to describe exactly what you said, bars, pubs and clubs. Whereas as Night Czar, here in London, we would use the term 24-hour economy, which is a much more integrated way of looking at it, because if you think about nighttime economy, that's just like, bars, pubs and clubs, it's an important part of our nighttime, but it's a really small part in the whole scheme of things. I mean, here in London, we know we have over 1.3 million people that are working at night. Most of those people are working for the NHS. They're working in essential services. They're working in infrastructure. They're, some of them are working in bars, pubs and clubs and hospitality. But I think that unless we kind of frame it in a wider context, we're missing a really big part of the story. And often the people that are hidden that allow us to live our lives fully, not just at night, but during the day as well. Think about cleaners, think about, those people working in the emergency room, or police officers, or anybody, really working at night. It's kind of like the hidden workforce, really. And that's one of the things that I really, as Night Czar, I tried to shine a light on, and did a lot of work to just try and help people understand a more holistic picture of what nighttime is.
And how I suppose that's what keeps the London as a machine functioning, growing. And actually all those people need amenities, just like I go to work during the day. I expect there to be somewhere to buy a cup of tea, to buy a cup of coffee. If you're cycling around and you need the loo, like how do you do those things?
Exactly. All those very, very basic things that we take for granted in daylight, those that are working at night just don't have access. They're much more likely to be worse paid. They're more likely to suffer health issues. You're 6 times more likely to get divorced if you work at night.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And sort of all these really interesting inequalities. And when I say interesting, it means we need to pay attention. Because these are inequalities that are hidden. And we really need to shine a light on them and understand that these people, night workers, that are keeping our city moving, keeping our city going at night, allowing us to live our lives during the day, really do suffer from great inequalities, and we need to address that.
So your role as Night Czar, how did you start to address and talk about those issues and actually shine a light on those issues?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, as a woman who's always worked at night, before I was Night Czar, I ran my nightclub, Ducky, you know, every Saturday night at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern for 27 years. And alongside that was doing other work at night. I did overnights at the BBC on, you know, as a presenter. We were running other clubs. So I pretty much lived my entire life nocturnally. And so I knew inherently the challenges that people were facing because I was facing them myself as well. And really basic issues like transport.
Well, I mean, I noticed that if I had a project in Portishead and I had to get there for a 9 a.m. meeting, and having to get like I would get the bus, and you suddenly see that it was really, really busy at 5 a.m. And you think, oh, okay, this is a whole other rush hour that everyone else doesn't get to see.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, one of the great privileges of being Night Czar was really to be able to craft what those priorities were in conjunction with my colleagues at City Hall, with the mayor, and with communities across London. One of the things that came up as a priority, actually number one priority, was safety for women and girls at night, which hopefully we can touch on a little bit. But I think some of the other issues were around that inequality for night workers, that hidden workforce. And also really sticky issues like planning, licensing, issues that we didn't have any control over, licensing in particular, at City Hall. But
because licensing is on the boroughs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So boroughs control licensing. We have 33 local authorities here in London. Most of those local authorities are the size of like a small European city anyway. You know what I mean? And they're all sort of like working to deliver according to the same legal framework around licensing, but interpreting it in different ways. And then layer on top of that some political color differences and different kind of, you know, are you an outer borough? Are you an inner borough? Are you Westminster? Are you Bromley? You know, those kinds of places will have very different priorities as well. So, you know, when we talk about London, it can be a bit of a behemoth at night, precisely for these reasons of each individual area having their own take on what they'd like to see.
And I suppose expectations. So when you are talking about the nighttime economy elements, which is the sort of bars and clubs and nightclubs, the sort of expectations of what they'll accept in terms of but then actually also accepting their pubs to stay open, but then also not necessarily wanting the noise and the late nights, and the sort of how do you sort of grapple with those?
There's a lot of conflicting interests, and particularly around licensing, and because we had no control over licensing, although that is really interestingly due to change. I think the government's running a pilot scheme with the GLA that should be coming in quite soon. I mean, it's been in the papers already, saying that they're going to do a trial to see whether, similar to planning, you know, if you have over a certain amount of units or a certain amount of stories or whatever, that the mayor has the ability to call it in. You know, I think that's the kind of model that they're looking at.
Because it is quite important to the character of particularly a lot of areas in the city, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think now in particular, when suffering from so much upheaval, I guess, in terms of our economic stability as a country. And I know that traditional nighttime economy has really been suffering. You know, recovering from COVID has been very difficult.
And
for
everyone
the
having
industry.
less money in their pockets.
Exactly. Cost of living, cost of doing business. You know, so it's like, what can we do now to really kickstart our economic growth. And I would say nighttime is the area that we need to be looking at.
Yeah.
That is where the most potential is, in my opinion, because it's when a lot of places are quiet or
Yes,
dark,
yeah.
or, factories are closed, or,
Yeah.
if you think about the infrastructure
Yeah.
that we have as a city that isn't used overnight.
Yeah, there's a lot of capacity.
Yes.
Actually, you hear the Gary economics guy. He talks about you can't grow the economy without resource.
Yes.
But actually,
We've
you're
got the
right, there is
resource.
resources and space and people and capacity
Yes.
to actually use.
We just need to start thinking about our city in a much more holistic, 24-hour way.
Yeah.
And not be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Because London is a 24-hour city.
Yeah.
Now, people have, in the past said that's ridiculous. I can't get a pint at 2 a.m. So, well, that is not the test of a 24-hour city. I always put people at the center of my work, and did do that, as Night Czar. And so I'm thinking about those people that are working at night, that are creating that economic activity. And yes, it would be great to be able to get a pint at 2 a.m. You know what I mean? I'm not arguing against that, but it's not the definition of a 24-hour city. And like I said, 1.3 million people regularly working at night.
I mean, also like getting maybe not at 2 a.m, but having a doctor's appointment at 8 p.m.
Yes.
Which actually could massively mean that people don't need to leave work in the middle of the day.
Exactly.
Or people working at night could go on the way to their shift.
Yes.
There's a lot of those sort of elements as well. Because if you're working at night, you don't want to do a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day because you're supposed to be sleeping.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
How would we sort of keep things churning?
So once we start thinking about our city in a much more holistic, kind of round-the-clock way, I think that there are huge benefits, huge economic benefits, huge benefits for people as well. You think about, I don't know, I mean, you're a mom, you've got a little one, and just trying to cram everything into one, the daytime.
Yeah, the tiny window.
And fitting in work and nursery and school and, and shopping and, everything else. It's like, I can imagine it's just impossible.
Yeah.
And why are we trying to do that? Why are we not expanding our concept of what could be achieved over 24 hours? And it's this kind of radical thinking that, actually, I say radical thinking. I don't find it that radical. I think it's quite common sense.
Yes, it's like common sense. It's that kind of join the dots master plan thinking, not just on a spatial way, but on a sort of time way as well, and how everything sort of can connect together. So with that, what do you feel? I mean, you've mentioned the making space for women and girls. Would you say that was one of your biggest achievements as Night Czar? What elements?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm so proud of is the Women's Night Safety Charter. I have to say, it was a number one priority. They came back, we did a polling of Londoners when I first started as Night Czar, and that came back as the number one priority. And I was like, you really don't have to twist my arm to make this a priority. This is so embedded in my heart as something so important, because we won't have flourishing, economically vibrant, culturally rich cities unless we ensure that they feel safe for women and girls. And look, we know London is relatively safe for women and girls, but it can be safer. There's always more work to be done. And so the idea behind the charter was to craft 7 pledges that are very easy to implement. So, not prohibiting anyone from doing anything by making it seem like, oh my gosh, it's just another policy. It's just another thing I've got to bring on board, et cetera, et cetera. And as a result, so we made it super accessible, and it really addresses 3 different areas around women, safety for women and girls at night: training, reporting and listening and believing, and also around design. And the design aspect, funnily enough, has been the most difficult one for a lot of people.
Architects should be paying attention to this.
Yes, absolutely. I'm talking to you. Because I think, people have perhaps a conception that, once something's in, it's done, and then that's it, and it can't change. Or, you know, once you start thinking about things or looking at places at night, it can really
change the way you approach it. I do remember you saying you would like to see, particularly like architects, designers, in their applications, where is the image of what it looks like at night.
Exactly.
I've carried that with me, actually. we have a project that we were doing in Birmingham that I made sure that we had nighttime visuals.
Brilliant.
Because it's a really important. It's going to be part of the new regeneration in Smithfield, and it is part of actually the 24-hour city in Birmingham. So actually, what our building looks like at night, how it addresses the square, which is going to be quite active in the evening, is really important.
What is your lighting strategy?
Exactly.
What kind of things are you putting in terms of greenery? How tall are your shrubs? Questions like that. Can people hide behind them? Will women feel safe crossing this piazza at night? If so, why? And if not, why not? And all of these kinds of questions. So it's opened up a lot of conversations, the Women's Night Safety Charter, around these wider issues of safety for women and girls, because we know that if you make places feel safer for women and girls, you make them feel safer for everyone.
I think this is
everyone
the point,
benefits from it. So it's not about excluding safety for anyone else. It's about saying, right, let's take 50% of the population and try and make them feel safe and welcome.
And the reason why is because they are the most likely to not feel safe.
Exactly. So
then if it's safe for them,
then that benefits the LGBTQ plus community. It benefits, people of color that obviously have other worries around being in public places, at night. And so once you start layering all these kind of identities on top of each other.
And men will feel safe as well.
And men will feel safer.
Which is also...
Yes. And women won't feel scared when
if a man's walking in, because you're feeling the safe... I think that's the other thing. A lot of men also, they feel mindful that they don't want to feel like they're intimidating someone, so they'll step back. And, And but like you say, if the environment feels safe and and more sort of part of a community, then it's better.
And the positive side, another positive side of the Women's Night Safety Charter is we've had such a huge breadth of organizations sign up. So it's really aimed at any organization that has women as customers or employees, which is pretty much everything. So it's not anything anybody can wriggle out, quite honestly. And we've got everyone from sort of like big nightclubs here in London through to small corner shops, through to McDonald's, through to Transport for London, and they've just hit, I think it's well over 3,000 signatories across London. And they hold a Women's Night Safety Summit twice a year, bringing all the signatories together to learn from each other. So it's not just like a tick box exercise. It's a very live conversation. We also had all the Premier League football teams in London sign up as well, which is incredible. So I think also, women's football is helping them think differently about okay, how can we get more women to the men's match? How can we get more men to the women's match? And, so it's very positive and something I'm really proud of, and something that obviously the mayor is carrying on with that work now.
That's amazing to hear that all these people are coming together and continually the conversation is still is still ongoing, because I think we're always learning, aren't we? And that's, I suppose, what design is, and how we're designing and working through our city, that we're always learning. And I suppose, so we've got this happening in London. How do we, what are other towns, cities starting to think about this stuff as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know I actually feel less safe in my hometown than I do in London.
Wow.
Because I think spaces aren't designed. There's not as many people, but spaces aren't thought about in the same way.
Yeah. Well, another reason I'm so proud about the Women's Night Safety Charter is because it's been adopted by so many different cities, towns, not just across the UK, but around the world.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And so Bristol is a great
Oh,
example.
that is a fabulous city.
It is. And Carly Heath, who is the nighttime advisor for Bristol, she just she loves the Women's Night Safety Charter. She took the framework of it and then made it into something that's really so for Bristol.
Of course.
Because you can't just replicate what we've done here in London. And it's not a cookie cutter kind of exercise.
Sort of transport is different. Their sort of street patterns are different.
Yes, absolutely. And
they've got much more water, they're almost like docks.
The water is a big the water is a big issue. But also because they have so many students in Bristol concentrated in a small space. So and so Carly and I worked together. She adapted it for Bristol, and she just shouts about how great it is and has really run with it. And as a result, our work together has inspired other cities, like Manchester has adopted it.
Another great city.
Nottingham, just sort of the whole area of Trondheim in Norway, for example. So there's some cities in Australia that have adopted it, and I think there's not Dallas, Texas. I'll leave that one. Sorry.
Basically,
I can't remember.
From that piece of work, you're actually making a change globally.
Yes.
This is quite
yes,
incredible.
It is a global movement. And like you said, it's important that you keep the conversation fresh and alive, and that you're constantly adapting, changing, and making things better.
Because the economy's changing, what we're doing at night changes. I'm spilling coffee everywhere. And so with that, so you have the elements you're most proud of, but I suppose what were the biggest challenges that maybe you faced trying to champion the nighttime economy and the 24-hour city? I mean, you've mentioned a couple already.
Yeah. I think, one of the challenges is being the first.
Yes. Yeah.
It's also a gift. Yeah. Because you don't have to follow in anyone's footsteps. But at the same time, I think that when I took on the role in 2016, we were losing so many nightclubs in London due to development, increase in commercial rents, increase in business costs. And so there were a lot of expectations and not very much power at all.
Yes. Yeah.
To meet a lot of those expectations.
And I suppose because London is made up of all the boroughs that have their own powers, and so
some boroughs were like, you want to talk to us about licensing? Sorry, we're too busy. And then others were like, we're really scared about this. We don't know what to do. Like, things feel really out of control. And so it's, every borough was different, and it's like herding drunken kittens in a way, in the best possible way. But, one of the ways that we got around that was by creating nighttime borough champions, which were representatives from each borough. Then we would come together and meet and talk through our problems, and that if solutions were found in a particular borough, other boroughs could then not reinvent the wheel, but adopt some of those. It's sharing knowledge, really, and also helping develop those relationships, not just between myself as Night Czar and the boroughs, some of which I had already known from having a political background before.
Of course,
so I was able to draw on some of those good relationships. But there were other boroughs that maybe I didn't know people, and it was really important to be able to have that space to do that. And as a result, one of the great things that my team and I did, one of the last projects we worked on before I left the role, was our nighttime enterprise zones project, which, funnily enough, we had piloted in Walthamstow just before COVID. We didn't know COVID was going to happen, but it was about boosting high streets at night.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And looking at things like design, public realm, but also what is the retail offer? What is the food and beverage offer? Like, how do we make people feel safer at night in their high street by, animating it and looking at issues around design. So it was huge success, the pilot in Walthamstow, increased footfall by 22%.
I mean, Walthamstow is doing very well as a sort of high street.
Yeah. So we increased footfall at night by 22%. A huge uptake in feelings of safety because there were more people around.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's when it's desolate that you feel like, oh my gosh, can I walk into that space, or, you know, what's going to happen? So by really making them more vibrant at night, we took the learnings from Walthamstow, and then COVID happened. And then, you know, we were kind of like coming out of COVID and thinking, oh gosh, you know, high streets are really suffering, particularly at night, particularly those traditional nighttime businesses. What can we do to give them a boost? So we got a pot of funding, and then we applied those learnings across 3 boroughs, and it was Bromley, Lambeth, and Greenwich. So 3 particular areas.
Being someone who lives quite near Greenwich,
yes,
it is actually, and there's been a lot of good work around the church there as well. They were up for a Civic Trust Award actually last year, because just by changing the lighting, adding the extra gate, which then now fronts the sort of main street, that actually is another element of the street that actually feels much more open. And then you've got all the businesses as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so we concentrated on Woolwich, actually, which is really interesting. Because you have the Woolwich Works.
Of course, and then a lot of new stuff going on.
And then the old high street. But you got like a dual carriageway sort of like going through it. And it was about how do you sort of like join the two, through lighting, through doing late night activity, through really engaging with the community, learning what they want. And so it was a huge success. Another aspect of the nighttime enterprise zones that was really great was integrating our requirement for a nighttime plan or nighttime strategy. Now, this is a requirement in the London plan.
Yes. Okay.
And which
we should have all read.
Yes.
I've read.
Don't try and download it all in one go. It'll like crash your computer. It's pretty massive. But the London plan and planning in general is one of the main areas that we have some controller power in City Hall, because it's a mayor's document. It's a spatial planning document for London, and setting a sort of 10-year vision for what will come in London. And that
can kind of guide the boroughs at their level a little bit as well.
Hopefully it guides boroughs at their level. It guides architects, planners, developers, showing what's coming down the line. And so by getting that requirement for a nighttime strategy in the London plan was a game changer. And so part of the nighttime enterprise zone was working with those boroughs to formulate their nighttime strategy, so that it's not just like, hey, you did this thing and now we're on to something else. It's like, this is a strategy that shows how we are going to approach nighttime, including bars, pubs, and clubs, including cultural assets, including transport, including better rights for night workers, you know, the holistic whole piece. And so I don't know what number they're up to at the moment. I don't have the very latest numbers, but I'm sure it's well over half the boroughs now. That's
good to hear. I mean, I definitely felt that when you came into post, the actual conversation of the nighttime economy was actually much more prevalent than it ever had been before. I think was just something we didn't think about. It just happened rather than actually concentrating on it. And I guess this is why having those key roles, like your role, but also the borough.
Those champions
means that you've got somebody thinking about just that and not trying to not be encompassing in other elements.
Yes.
So I think that's focus it.
I think that's really important, and it's also why I think it's important to have that holistic view.
Yeah.
Because it's quite easy to just think that it's bars, pubs, and clubs. Not just, because I don't want to say just, because they're like the backbone of going out, you know, and that is my background, so I don't want to, you know. But I think having that wider view and having those champions and having people across London talking about it, you know, whether it's working, whether it's not working, you know, let's get together and see what we can do.
And I guess it's because then you are spanning the departments. So it's like talking to transport, talking to
Yes.
street maintenance, if that's the department. Talking to all those
Absolutely.
different elements and the
That
licensing
hits
and
the
bars, pubs and
that
clubs.
hits the nail on the
Because
head.
actually, if you're just looking at you're just thinking about one thing rather than actually,
Yes.
how do you join all those people together? How do you join all those workers together
Yes.
to then actually keep it sort of the machine that runs quite well during the day working as well in the evening?
Yeah.
And that's sort of, you need that one person that's joining everything. I suppose what you say, it's holistic, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think that's
So it's a different way of looking at government, at city government. But, you know, there have been conversations around this kind of being better joined up. And it's one of the things that came out of COVID as well, because so many different departments in local authorities, local government had to work together. Everybody had to work together in ways that were really challenging. But, you know, we want to keep the good stuff. There was quite a lot of horrible, bad stuff. Let's keep the good stuff. And that was sort of being more integrated, not being afraid to kind of walk across the office to talk to your, you know, colleague working in a different department, you know, and this is where I think, you know, I get quite excited around planning and licensing because they are like never the twain shall meet, but they're two things that are absolutely crucial to nighttime flourishing in any city or town. And unless you're really thinking about planning and licensing together, you will always come up against trouble.
Some big challenges.
Yeah.
And then so looking at talking about people who are actually designing our towns and cities and buildings, so architects, planners, what do you think that we should be thinking about? What are the sort of key things that we should be thinking about?
Yes, key things you should be thinking about.
Like headlines,
taking risks.
Okay,
taking risks, particularly for developers, I'd say. One of the things I think that's holding our nighttime back is that, you know, London will always change. London is a developing city. It's constantly developing. There are always new developments.
It's alive.
It's alive, yes. And so how can we ensure that, firstly, we keep the good stuff. We keep the venues and the places that really mean something to communities. It's not doesn't mean that we have to save everything or that we can save everything. But if something has a particular community value, a strong community value, ask whether, you know, you can integrate that into your new mixed use development. You know, and get the community on side from day one. By actually keeping the thing that they love. Rather than just saying, well, it's got to go to make room for X, Y, and Z. So I think there's that. I think there's also about taking risks around looking at planning and licensing together. So putting licensed venues in mixed use developments and not being afraid of that. Because they can work. They really can work, and you can charge higher rent.
Wow.
If they get later licenses. You may need to, for example, put in some soundproofing. So there is a cost to that. But it pays back.
Because you live in a cool place.
Exactly. And so there are all sorts of things that I think planners, designers, and particularly developers can look at to be just a little bit more innovative. And thinking about what those spaces feel like and look like at night. Because I guarantee you also have night workers that are living in whatever mixed-use development that you're working on. And so they will need to get a good day's sleep. While everyone is outside making noise while they're finishing off drilling the pavement or like doing whatever.
Leaf blowing.
Yes. So by actually creating better quality housing, and by better quality I mean better insulated for all sorts of things, including
the main one is sound,
including sound. Yes,
the key one. If you solve that, then actually you've got great stuff on your doorstep. That you can utilize,
and it gives buyers the confidence of knowing that. And you know, there are examples, say for Agent of Change, you know, where this has worked. But we need to see this kind of put into practice more as like standard.
I mean, I like this idea that if you brought in a new development, you actually bring a venue or, you know, something that has activity at night as part of a new development. You can do it for a new development. You can then also have a new development that exists alongside an existing there's the two, the sort of, it's like part of the whole thing, works.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is also the idea behind the nighttime strategies and the policies in the London plan, is that for too long we've been under planning and over regulating.
Yes. Yeah.
So we just expected, like you said, we just expect nighttime to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we have to over-regulate in order to compensate for the fact that this stuff is actually making a vibrant city and an amazing city to live in. And this is where the tensions lie. It doesn't actually have to be that way.
Okay.
We can plan for our night times.
Yeah.
We can plan for new developments to be better soundproofed. We can plan for mixed-use developments to have late-night venues. Are you working on a mixed-use development with a basement? Can I suggest you turn that into a nightclub?
Yeah. Well, I haven't got a basement, but you could have a ground.
Yes.
Actually, I don't think I have worked on anything that's got a nightclub in it. Right. So maybe I should suggest
or a grassroots live music venue,
Yeah.
or a theater, or something, a venue with flexibility, so that maybe it could be a theater, or during the day it could offer something for local mums and toddlers, and it could be a nightclub at night. We need to rethink what a mixed use development is as well. And
like you say, it is like using that capacity. So rather than just assuming if your ground floor isn't residential, it's going to be a shop or co-working.
Yes.
Actually, there's a whole other element that it could be.
And why do co-working spaces tend to close at 6? Well, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
There are so many things I think that need to be looked at. Once you look at something in the dark.
I like that. Look at it in the dark.
It really changes.
It changes your mindset. So, I mean, we've touched on a little bit about other UK cities. I've been spilling coffee around before. I might keep that bit in. So, looking beyond London and other cities, we've mentioned a few. The fact that the Women and Girls Charter is spread around. But what UK cities do you think are really sort of getting the nighttime economy, the 24-hour city right?
Yeah.
And what can sort of be improved?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think that it's definitely something that's much more on the agenda and is much more on the lips of politicians and decision makers. So some of the cities that are exciting me around the UK are places like Belfast.
Oh, okay.
They have a Night Czar, and they also, have challenges around licensing and historic tensions that, they're working hard to overcome. And I just find Belfast such an exciting city to be in and a city to be out in. They've got loads of students that are now living in the city centre. So it's really changing from, perceptions that we may have had in the past. And they do love a pint and they love a party. And I think that, so at the moment, they're looking at expanding nighttime transport, which I think will be an absolute game changer for Belfast, not just in terms of that traditional nighttime economy, but, people working in local hospitals and be able to get to and from work much more easily.
Everyday economy and job opportunities.
Yeah. And this is a conversation that's been going on in Belfast for a number of years, but it's picking up momentum and it's looking much more likely now. So fingers crossed for that.
I need to go to Belfast now.
Yeah.
Pint.
Oh, it's great. And other places, well, Carly in Bristol always does amazing work, particularly with the students down there.
Yeah.
And other places around the world actually are doing interesting work in terms of the 24-hour economy.
Yeah.
And looking at what they're doing in a much more holistic way. Sydney stands out as some place that was started at a very difficult point. They had lockout laws.
Oh, really?
Where you weren't able to enter a licensed premises after a particular time.
Oh, okay.
If you were in, you were able to stay. But like
Yeah.
basically, it kind of like it killed Sydney's nightlife,
Yeah,
and it
then people are
also
milling around because actually there's something nice about you go to that bar, you go to there, and people the sort of milling, which actually makes you feel quite safe.
It really
as well.
does. It really does. And it also really hit Sydney as a tourist destination. Particularly around Pride and like, Mardi Gras and all of that. It's like, people just didn't want to go anymore. And they have turned
Didn't feel buzzy.
No, they have turned it around spectacularly.
Wow. Okay.
They have a nighttime commissioner there and a whole government department and a minister in the New South Wales government that is dedicated to this. So, and a huge budget, I have to say, which is, the other side of things that here in London, we're trying to do on a shoestring, and they've been able to get the funding for what they want to do. So I'd say Sydney is definitely one to watch.
Oh, we'll have a look at it. So now we've talked about cities, maybe at a national level. We've obviously had a new government for the past, it's over a year now. If there's sort of something that you could change at a government level, what would that be? Do you think there's enough happening at the moment in terms of like the 24-hour city and or maybe
how long do we have time for all that? I got quite a long list. If any government ministers want to pop around for a chat. No, you don't have to come to me. I'll come to you. But I think one of the biggest things that could be done would be to completely overhaul our licensing system. Completely overhaul it and to align it much more closely with planning.
Yeah.
That is something that is really holding back economic growth in this country, and I think could unlock so much potential. And it doesn't even have to be about alcohol licensing, because of course you need late night refreshment licenses, even if you want to sell a cup of tea after 11 p.m.
A music license to play on the radio in the coffee shop.
Yes, exactly. And so yes, it's about a drink, but it's also about so much more. And it's about unlocking our lives at night. And our lives at night can be so diverse. It often makes me think about that nighttime enterprise zone project we did, and in Bromley. One of the things the local communities came up with, they're like, we'd like to have a silent disco in the library. And the library,
I love silent disco.
And the library was like, what? Disco library does not compute. And actually they came around and they were like, okay, we're going to try it. We're going to get some people to make like cocktails and mocktails. Can I just say they have 5,000 people turn out?
Oh my God.
They had to turn people away. And now it's a regular feature.
I love that.
So, it's also about reimagining those spaces.
Also, I suppose you can then use those spaces. You don't need a perfect sound system. You just need the earphone. It's not quiet though, because everyone's singing.
Yes,
But it's great.
But, people aren't going to be studying necessarily in a local library at 11 at night. But it's a regular event now that
do you remember the trend when people were like occupying laundrettes and turning them into little pop-up bars?
Yes.
I loved that.
Absolutely. So this is, you can call it nesting, you can call it, there's all sorts of different words or phrases that people use, but how are we using the infrastructure that we have and repurpose it for something else at a different time of day or night?
It's interesting. I was at a Labour Party event last night and Steve Reid was there, and he was saying that they're going to make announcements about the high street. So it'd be interesting to see if they've thought about that. And if they haven't, then they need to come and speak to you.
Yes, they definitely do. Because I think if we're only thinking about our high street, one of the reasons why high streets have suffered is because they were traditionally 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
And funnily enough,
I mean,
most
can never get
people
there.
are at work, and gone are the days when, women were more likely to stay at home and be able to pop out to the shops,
This is the really good point, that we've become society, the economy and cost of living is such, you cannot afford to live on one income.
Yes.
So now because everyone's living on two incomes, no one's around to sort of go to the shop, go to the coffee shop during the day. I mean, I think just thinking about my hometown, we've got the high street is suffering quite a lot. So I'm from Bognor Regis, one of the also coastal towns, which is sort of struggling a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if Reform take it at the next election, which will be horrific, but in my view. But the high street is pedestrianised, and you think, and it's really wide. So you think this is the perfect place to have seating outside. You know, if you were designing that as a new place, from, you know, in London or whatever, you would in the render would be people sitting outside having food.
Yeah.
There's no restaurant.
You'd have some little pocket parks, some green spaces, some kind of, you know.
So they've sort of done it up. They put some nice trees there, but actually the shops, again, they're shut at 5. And then you walk through that high street at sort of 7 p.m. and it's completely empty. But actually it could be thriving in a much different way.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have those cultural anchors like a local theater or a cinema. Yeah. Because then, you know, people are going out at night and then they're meeting their friends for a drink or having a bite to eat before or afterwards. And then all of a sudden you've got a vibrant high street at night. Yeah. You know, this has been tried, it's been tested, it's been proven to work. So maybe I need to send the Nighttime Enterprise Zone's findings to Steve Reed.
I think you probably should. It would be interesting to see what comes out. I think they're going to make some announcements at conference about high streets. And it's good that they are talking about high streets and understanding that, you know, it's not just about building homes. You need other stuff. I keep repeating the Billy Connolly quote of they took us out the slums, built us nice houses with plumbing, but we had fuck all else. And it's so true. You can't just... Even as beautiful as the homes might be, you're not going to create integrated communities. It's, you know, you need to have other things and access to employment, access to entertainment, and all those things. So maybe we'll sort of start to wrap up. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. It's been an absolute honour to talk to you, and great to catch up as well. But maybe I'm looking ahead. Yeah, I mean, the first thing, so you've got a new venture.
Yes. Set up my own consultancy, 24-hour cities. So taking all of the learnings from being Night Czar and all of my experience and helping individuals, companies, governments, architects. Like, you know, I was doing some advising for the city of Cork. I did get to touch on the great stuff that Ireland in the south, what they're doing. They're doing some really amazing work as well.
Ireland shows how even in tiny villages, you can have a thriving nighttime.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a lot we can learn from that, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, the Irish government are putting a lot of resource into that because they understand how important it is for their culture.
It's their heritage.
Because it's their heritage. It's not just having a pint. It's the music. Yeah. It's entertainment. It's the reading live poetry. Yeah. It's, you know... I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. I want to go back to Cork.
I'm remembering going to Dingle. Yeah. And you walk around and you don't have to pay to even listen. So you go from one absolutely incredible music venue. Well, it's not even a venue, it's a little pub playing music. Yeah. And you walk to another pub and people are playing live, and it's just absolutely magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Ireland, they've recognized the importance of this to their economy. Yeah. So it's great to see them doing excellent work. Sorry, that just took me on a little
I'd love to
sidewind there. Just
because actually New Cross, where I live, historically had quite a music heritage.
Yes.
Make sure we retain and develop that more.
And Fiona Collins, who's the nighttime advisor in Cork, is brilliant. Okay. She's doing some great work there. Yeah. So
like spreading the message and building on the work that you've done and
absolutely. I've got some exciting things coming up in the future. Worked on some huge projects that I would have never been able to do as Night Czar. So it's also kind of stretching me into areas that are really new and exciting, and just continue to learn, carry on connecting with all of my colleagues around the world, part of this global movement of nighttime and cities at night. I mean, there are quite a few of us now. The WhatsApp group is going to explode. Yes. Yep, former and current, and we all keep in touch. And I think we didn't touch on climate change.
No, yes.
And that is one thing I just want to mention, because if we're looking forward, this is the thing we need to be thinking about in terms of nighttime. As our days get hotter, we need to do more at night when it's cooler.
That is very true.
If everyone, we often hear like, oh, well, you go to Barcelona and people are out all night. I'm like, well, people are out all night because it's too hot during the day.
Yeah, this is very true.
And so
we do need to be rethinking about our timetable. Yes. Of like when we work, when we don't work,
when we exercise, it's going to be too hot
outside.
to exercise during the day.
Yeah.
You know, night runs.
Yeah.
This is something that we need to be thinking about from a feeling of, you know, safety and security, but also our health.
Yeah.
We need to be looking at how we build our homes, not just to be better in terms of sound, but also in terms of light and heat.
Yeah, and overheating. I also think about thinking about the school timetable in climate change. And, you know, I mean, that it could be a massive shift in terms of working patterns. But if it's too hot, if you're taking your kid to school for 9 and picking them up at 3, that's on when it's 40 degrees in London, that's actually almost impossible to do.
Yes.
So do we shift the school year so that it actually finishes in June and the summer holiday is July when it's actually hotter, because August isn't actually that hot.
No.
So I think again, like you say, we need to be thinking about everything in a holistic way.
Yeah.
So the daytime timetable and the yearly timetable as well.
And so in terms of going forward, climate change and nighttime is an intersection that not many people are working on. But it is going to be crucial to our survival as a human race.
Yeah.
And not only can it unlock that economic vibrancy and having better lifestyles and everything being more integrated, we can also be healthier with it.
I like the sound of that. So are you optimistic for the future?
I'm always optimistic. I'm optimistic because I think we've got a government that is taking into consideration some of these things, particularly around licensing, you know, and doing that trial here in London. I think we have to be optimistic because the young people that are coming through are so full of energy and ideas. We older people need to make space for them as well, you know, and not just hog it all for ourselves, and really keep our eyes and ears open to what the younger generation has to offer. And
I just adapt to how they are living at nighttime as well.
Which, you know, low and no alcohol, for example. Younger people are drinking much less. And people are eating much less as well, eating out because of the change in sort of the obesity drugs and things. So, you know, the landscape is shifting very, very quickly. The one thing I just ask everyone to do going forward is to just ask this one simple question: what does it look like in the dark?
And I'll be thinking for every project, and I do say it now, nighttime image. Thank you so much. So it was a really, really amazing conversation. A lot to think about on all sorts of different levels.
Always a pleasure.
Yay! We did it.